Welcome to Ghost Hunting, getting started. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, thank you and welcome. I'm Tim Arnwine. I'm a retired paramedic turned ghost hunter and author. Currently, I'm the case manager and investigator for War Party Paranormal and co-founder of Ghostly Experiences, Inc. Now, I want to thank everybody who sent in comments for our questions and comments segment later in the show. This week, we're going to be talking about foreman teams, team member roles, finding an investigation, and pricing. Okay? Now, listen, what you're about to start on, to many, may seem out of the box thinking. Don't worry about it. Be excited about it. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Because you're going to find that a lot of people believe in ghosts. And you're going to be amazed at how many people have actually had experiences. Okay? Now, they may have been waiting their whole lives for a person like you, a like-minded person, just to tell you their story. Now, these conversations may lead to potential team members or investigations down the road. Okay. Now, if you're planning on starting a team with some friends and like-minded people, that's great. If you don't have those options, there's a few resources you can go to look for team members. One is something called paranormal registries, something like paranormalsocieties.com and ghosttop.com. Now you go to these sites, you click on it, you look for teams in your area. Now click on the teams, all the contact information should be there. Get in touch with them. See if they're expanding their teams or looking for new members. Another way is keep an eye out for local meetups like ghost hunters or paranormal investigations. Okay? And a third way is, attend your local ghost hunting events. Now this is, like I said before, this is no longer an October thing. They're year round. They're usually held at historic locations and they're usually affiliated with a team. So get out there, go to these events, get to know the teams, and see if they're expanding, looking for new members. Now, once you find some members who are interested, have a meeting. Find out their thoughts on ghost hunting. Find out their expectations. One expectation I get a lot of is I hear people say, "Well, are you hiring, or how much do you pay?" Well, we don't pay because we're volunteers. We're out there just ghost hunting because we love ghost hunting. We like getting the evidence, and we love looking for answers. Okay? Now, expectations. I had one years ago. This guy he sticks with me. I had a meetup group. There are a lot of people there. And this guy walked up to me later in the night, and he said, "Listen, are you only going to be investigating for ghost animals?" And I was taken back. No, man, I'm kind of hoping we're going to look for people that have passed and find answers for that. So, yeah, find out their expectations. They'll surprise you. But whether if you're going to build a team with friends or you're going to build a team with people you're getting to know, one thing you have to do, you have to feel good about these people. Because you have to remember, you're going to be taking these people into other people's homes and businesses. You have to feel good about it. Now, once you start getting some people who are interested, you got to start promoting it. Promoting your team. Name your team, of course. Get a logo. A way to promote it is, build a website, social networks, invest in some business cards and team shirts. Now, over the years, I've been approached by dozens and dozens of people just by wearing my team shirt. They're great conversation starters. Okay? Now, while you're promoting, you're going to have to start investing in some tools. Because once that first case comes in, you want to be ready. Do not mortgage the house. Okay? Your first kit can just be like a camera, a camcorder, an audio recorder, some kind of MEL meter or an EMF meter, an infrared thermometer, and some flashlights. Okay? Now, all this stuff is available, of course, on any ghost store on the internet. But they're also available on eBay and Amazon. Okay? Now you're thinking, I may not be ready to start my own team. That's okay. Joining a team is an option. I joined a team before I went out on my own. The most credible teams I know, if you talk to their founders, you're going to find out that most of them joined the team too before they went out on their own. Okay? Now, you got to remember there's two things you need in this field. You're going to need credibility and experience. Now, a good team will give you credibility. And the team members will teach you how to use the tools and how to properly do an investigation. Okay? So, let's talk about team member roles. Now, you would think in a perfect world that every role has a member. Well, to be honest with you, most groups, their team members usually wear multiple hats. Like, for instance, I'm a case manager and an investigator for War Party. I'm also a big promoter. I'm always wearing my shirts, and every time I'm out, I'm always looking for places to investigate. Okay? But as a team leader, your priority is going to be to build your team. Now, if you can remember something, it'll go a long way. If you can remember that your team members, they're coming on with the same excitement, the same passion, and all that. But they're basically volunteering their time. So, they have their separate lives. They have jobs. They have families. So if you can remember that not every investigation will have every investigator, that's fine. Just build it into your numbers as you build your team. Now, I say it'll go a long way, that rule, because if you can show the passion, the excitement for investigating, but you can also respect that they have separate lives, you're going to attract team members to you. Okay? Now, another responsibility you're going to have until you get what we call a case manager is you're going to have to start bringing in investigations and confirming them. Now, once you get an investigation, it's okay, of course, to share the date, the time, the address, location of the investigation. But don't share the specifics. Okay? In other words, don't call your whole team and say, Friday we got an investigation. The guy is seeing a shadow in his bedroom. He's hearing voices from the kitchen. Okay? The reason for that is there's some that I like to call going in cold. It's a rule. Okay? The ideal investigation is that you bring your team in cold, no preconceptions of activity. And that way it gives a lot of credit to an honest investigation. All right? So let's say pre-investigation, the day of. Okay? You show up at the location with your team. Okay? You're going to go in by yourself. Leave your team outside. Because you're going to re-interview the client. The activity or concerns or hot spots. Has anything changed? Now, the reason you're leaving your team outside is because they're going to go on cold. All right? Now, the investigation starts once you bring your team in. Now, you can bring your team in and ask some of them to start, setting up equipment as per the interview to, present hotspots that the client thinks. You can ask some of your team to start doing baseline readings, and we'll discuss that later. But during the investigation, you might have to shift equipment because the activity might shift. In other words, the bedroom was thought to be the hot spot. It's quiet. But now, for some reason, the garage is kicking up. All right? Now, during the investigation, your most important part is take part. Investigate. That's the funnest part of this. and you've worked hard to get here. All right? And the cool thing is you're going to be able to watch your team grow and watch yourself grow as you gain experience. Now, after the investigation, the post-investigation, you're going to want to gather any interesting evidence, pictures, video, audio, any notes that were taken, or any feelings that were felt. You're going to want to gather all that up from your team, review it, make up a package, set a time to talk to the client about the investigation, go over the evidence with them, find out how they felt about the investigation. Find out how they're feeling now. Are they comfortable? Did they like the answers they got? Okay, because there may be a reason to do a follow-up investigation. Okay, we've had to do a few of them, and the reason might be, at the end of the day, the whole goal is to have your client comfortable with the situation they're in. Okay, and sometimes you might not catch any evidence, and that's okay. It happens. So if you're going to do a follow-up investigation, I always suggest that the client keeps a log for a week or two. Keep a log of the activity, the type of activity, the time frame. Because for all you know, you could have been there at the wrong time. The activity could be at 1 in the morning or 1 in the afternoon. Okay? So after the investigation, after the meeting, just keep in touch with them, see how the log's going. And if they still feel a follow-up needs to be done, schedule it. Make sure the team's available. Okay. Let's talk about your case manager. Now, your case manager is valuable because now they become the link between your team and the client. They're going to make the call to do the interview, find out the activity, the concerns, the hotspots, things like that. Okay? Now, very important for the case manager. When you're interviewing the client, do not be judgmental. Okay? They don't need that. Okay? When I talk to people, whether they call me or I call them, in effect, the first words out of their mouth are, "You're going to think I'm crazy," but. So they don't need someone judgmental. They need an empathetic person, empathetic to their concerns. Now, once you get all this information, the activity, concerns, hotspots, address, you're going to get the phone number because you're going to be the contact. Just let them know that you're open, call you if you need anything, if there's uptick in activity, any changes, things like that. Okay. Once you get all this information, and you're also going to set up a couple, possible dates for investigation with the client. Don't confirm it. Now you're going to want to take all this information, give it to the team leader only. Okay? Don't pass it around because remember, going in cold. Now once the team leader confirms the team is available, then you confirm it with the client. Because there's really no reason to confirm something with the client if you don't know if the team's available. All right, so just keep in touch with them. Okay, a couple days before the investigation, call to make sure everything's still on track. Just confirm it because you don't want your team showing up if it got canceled. Right? And for the case manager, you may be involved in the post-investigation meeting. The team leader may want you to go, or if they're busy and he wants the client to get the evidence and the discussion in a timely manner, he may ask you to go. So it's the same thing. Get the evidence, sit down and talk to them about the evidence, the investigation. See if they think there needs to be a follow-up. Okay, if there does, just keep in touch with them. Tell them about the log, the suggestion, and just be in touch with them. And if they still think it's necessary, schedule one when the team's available. Okay? Now let's talk about investigators. Now investigators are your techie part of the group. But they've got to be the most proficient and most knowledgeable of the tools. And the reason for that is if you can prove that you're proficient and you're competent with the tools, then that really gives a lot of credit to the evidence you're going to present. Or if you don't get any evidence. Now, if you don't get any evidence, but everything went smooth that night, you were good with the tools and the equipment and all that, the client can only believe that you did your best. It was just the timing was off. After all, ghosts don't make appointments. Okay? Now, once you get all these things going, now you got to realize that your whole team can bring cases. Once your team grows, you got your investigators on, you got your case managers on, you got all that going. Your net is now growing of contacts. Anybody can bring a case to the team, an investigation. Just be sure they pass it to the case manager. That way you're keeping that rule of going in cold down to the middle. All right? So let's talk about some other members. You got sensitives, empaths, psychics, and mediums. Now, these are special people, and they have gifts, very special gifts in different ways. For instance, sensitives have an increased perception through their senses. Empaths, they're highly attuned to other people's energies. Psychics have ESP, particular through telepath and clairvoyance. And then your mediums, they can actually speak to others on other dimensions. Okay, they're very special people. Okay, now for the sake of discussion, we're just going to call them sensitives right now, so we don't really have to go through the list. Now, not every group starts with sensitive, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. Like I said, they're very special people. It takes time and patience to find one of these team members. Okay, if you have someone on your team that says, I think I'm a sensitive, I think I'm a medium, or one of them, if you pay close attention during the investigation, if you watch, their feelings, the activity, the evidence you're getting, and the client's concerns, if they start meshing together, they're going to prove themselves out. Okay? Now, I like to call these people the lights into the activity. And the reason for that is they can discern, present activity, so you can set up your equipment effectively. They can discern shifts in activity, so if you need to move equipment around. And they can actually give you key questions to ask in an EVP session. All right? Like I said, they're special people, they're very gifted. But feelings do not make evidence. Okay, they're not evidence. And the only reason I say that is in an ideal investigation, what you want to do is you want to marry their feelings, the evidence, the client's concerns, and the activity. You want to try to bring all that back into a little package to start giving you some answers of why the activity is happening. Okay? Now, another thing sensitives can do is they can do cleansings. Now, they can cleanse locations, cleanse your team after an investigation. They can cleanse the client after an investigation. But more important, they can educate the client how to better protect themselves going forward. Okay? Now, another role you might want to look at is researchers. Now, researchers are people who can research, the history of a location to see if there's any history that's relative to the activity. For example, once we did a business, and the chief complaint is women were getting scratched at this business. So the researcher dug in, and we did the investigation, and then we found out that when they were building this strip mall that this business was in, they had to halt construction because they found skeleton of a woman and a toddler buried there. So after we got, we judged the activity, the evidence we got, and then the client's concerns and the history. So we made an educated guess that the ghost is probably someone who's envious that these women are still alive. Now, your last role is going to be your web people, your social network people. They're valuable because they're going to promote your team, make updates, make announcements, and post evidence. Okay. Now, some groups, including ours, will go live during an investigation on one of the social networks. But you got to remember, you got to get permission before you do this. Okay. This includes posting evidence. You got to get permission from the client because privacy is everything when it comes to the client, and it'll get out that you're very private. Your privacy is your thing. A lot of people, most people admire that. They kind of give a sigh of relief when you tell them that, because I don't know anybody who wants their house splashed all over the internet as being haunted. Okay, I don't know. There's some businesses out there that don't want to be known as being haunted. So ask permission. Privacy is everything. Okay? So now listen, you have all these team members. Okay, you got a lot of roles. But not everybody's locked into a role. Like for instance, your web people and your historians can also be investigators. That's the funnest part of this anyways. If somebody knows something about the location, they might be able to help the historian or the researcher. So not everybody's locked in. But there's something that everybody has to be mindful of. That the client is waiting for answers. Okay? They're sitting on pins and needles wondering what is going on in my location. Okay? So you got to be mindful and do your due diligence to get the evidence back as soon as possible so we can sit down and talk to the client about it. All right? So let's talk about finding an investigation because that's really where it's at. You want to get out there playing with the toys, looking for evidence, things like that. Now, finding investigations is basically getting your name out there, doing the legwork. You can do this by your website. You can do it by your social media. You can do it by casual conversations. You can local events. Now that you're part of a team or you have your own team, you can now be one of those paranormal teams on the paranormal registries. But the big thing is that your team, you and your team should just promote yourselves and your team. Okay? Now, I say local events because our team does a lot of public investigations for historic locations. Now, we don't make any money. It's usually a fundraiser for that location. Okay? We're there to get our names out. Okay? We get investigations from these events. Okay? The way I like to think of it is the tours, the historic location events we do. The tours, we're there to educate the public, for the people who show up. Educate them what we do. And it's also a way to get our name out. Now the privates we do, the residentials, the businesses, things like that, that's where we get to help people by finding answers to their questions. Okay? Now, this one always gets me. Pricing. Now, some people get into this. Pricing has to be determined when you're forming your team. Some people get in this, they go, well, should I charge for an investigation or should I not charge for an investigation? Well, I'm telling you right up front, no credible team charges for investigations. Okay? I've personally never charged for an investigation. And I have 4 reasons for that. 1, if you're not charging money, then the client knows that they are your greatest concern, not just picking up a check. 2, if you're not charging for an investigation, then you can present the evidence in an honest manner. In other words, you're not obligated to tell this person what they want to hear. Because remember, credibility is everything in this, right? For example, I did a guy's house, and he was only in town for a few months, so he decided he wanted to rent a house while he was here. Now, within 2 weeks of living there, he found that he couldn't live there. He was always nauseous. He felt he was being watched all the time. So he called us out for the investigation, and we did it. We found a cool shadow figure. We got 2 good EVPs. Now, when I sat down and discussed it with the client, I showed him the video, I played him the audios. This guy was mad. He was furious we found something. And I, simply told him, I go, well, that's why I don't charge you. Because then I'm not there to tell you what you want to hear. Okay? Remember, credibility is everything. Don't fake evidence because it'll catch up with you. Okay, if you don't catch evidence, that's okay. There's some nights where you're not going to catch nothing, and that's okay. Okay? Now, the third reason I don't charge is because no one puts ghost hunting in their budget. Okay? And the fourth reason is I know that we're helping these people by doing the investigation. Okay? But I also know that they're allowing us into their house or their business, usually after hours, and they're allowing us to investigate, to gather evidence, and to gain experience. Okay? And no charge to us. So, now I periodically, I do get clients who are very insistent of giving us something. Okay? And I always tell them right up front, I go, listen, we're not a 501 charity. Okay? Now, if you really want to give us a donation, give a donation to your favorite charity in our name. Okay? Pay it forward. But usually 99% of the time they want to give us the money, the donation. They were very grateful. And I always tell them, I go, listen, okay, if they're very insistent and I don't want to insult them, I'll take the money. But I always tell them right up front, I go, listen, this money is going to go towards food for the team, extra supplies, or maybe go towards a piece of equipment that we've been looking to get. Okay? So, pricing. Your decision. Just be honest with your investigations. Be honest that you're there for the client. The word will get around and you will find your investigations. Okay? Now let's talk about some comments we got. We didn't get any comments about the EVP, and that's okay. We get a few comments, positive comments, that people enjoyed the stories I started throwing in last segment. I threw in stories to, illustrate the point I was trying to make. I'm a very visual person. If people can throw in a story to make a point, it helps me learn better. So I appreciate that. Now this week's, let's go back. Because I want you to send in comments. If you want, send in comments. You can send in comments to, this segment, last week's segment, or basically anything about ghost hunting. You can send the comments into ghosthuntinggettingstarted@gmail.com. You can send them into my Facebook, which is Longhair Ghost Hunter, SOFL, or send them directly into the channel. Okay? And I appreciate anything you send in, any questions or comments. Now, what I was going to get to. As y'all know, we've been, tacking on some EVPs for you to review and, comment on. This week's EVP, we're going to go to a place called Yesteryear Village. Now, Yesteryear Village is basically a collection of, historic home or old business buildings. And they've all been brought into one location in Palm Beach. And it's world renowned. Particularly one place on the location called the Riddle House. It's been featured on Ghost Adventurers. And last year it was part of the world's largest ghost hunt. So the whole place is world renowned. Now this particular EVP is going to come from someplace, a location in there called the Phone Building. Now I don't know the exact history of the place, but I'm thinking that years ago not everybody had a phone in their house. So this place was like if you went downtown to do a little shopping, you can stop it and make some phone calls if you had to. Now this EVP was taken on the front porch. We never went inside. It was taken on the front porch. I was with Scotty Burns. She's one of the co-founders for War Party. And we basically asked, what is your name? And we got a very clear 3 syllables, Oliver. So I'm going to leave it up. You guys listen to it. Let me know what you think. If you heard something different, that's fine. There's something, like I always say, called hearing matrixing. So you can hear something different. Let me know. I have no qualms about that. Okay? Let me know if you think you heard Oliver, or let me know if you think you heard something else. Okay? So next week you want to maybe share with your friends who are into ghost hunting, because we're gonna start getting into the investigation. Okay, we're gonna start talking about guidelines to investigations, types of investigations, types of hauntings, weather, and ghost hunting, and the best time to investigate. So share with your friends. Okay, it should be pretty fun. Okay. So listen, I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much. And if you subscribe, thank you. If you like what we're doing here, taking this journey, ghost hunting, getting started, and please subscribe. Okay? And please check out the book, Ghost Hunting Getting Started, on Amazon. Okay? Now listen, if you're going to go out there ghost hunting, please be safe. Please be careful. And please, if you like, share your evidence with us. Okay? Remember, the videos air on Tuesdays. Live events I'm going to announce here or on the Facebook. Now, hopefully I can get out to the locations. Now, I live in Florida, and Florida's been up and down with the spikes from the virus. So the locations are still pretty locked down. But as soon as they start loosening up, I'm going to get out there and either do a live event, or if they're restricted, maybe I can get out there and just tape one from a location. Okay? So listen, thanks again for everything. I look forward to hearing your comments. And please, like I said, be safe and be careful. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Can you give us your name, the person who's here? Can you give us your name, the person who's here? Can you give us your name, the person who's here?